So can you tell us about your journey walking through infertility?
Yes. So first, I'm just going to start by saying, growing up, I always wanted to be a mom. I was the person that when my sister started babysitting, I couldn't wait to babysit. Then I finally had to start babysitting, and I was like the babysitter, the nanny, the preschool teacher, the camp counselor, like always with kids. And so that was just my desire. And, you know, I think I thought I was going to get married at 24 and have all my kids, all 4 kids by 30. But I guess when you're young, you think you know how your life is going to go, and then it doesn't go that way always. And so I met my husband when I was 30. We got married at 31. And we wanted like 2 years of just the two of us before we started a family. And so when I was I just turned 33, we started trying for a family. And that was in April 2011. So that's 8 years now. And in those 8 years, we've done fertility treatments, we've done IUIs and IVF, and we've taken a whole lot of breaks because it costs a lot of money and it takes a toll on your finances, your emotions, your body. And so that's pretty much our journey so far. And we have one more round, and that's going to be it.
So do you feel as though your infertility has affected those around you, such as your family and your friends, and if so, in what way?
I thought this was a cool question. So I've never really thought about this before, but I definitely think it's affected my friends and family. Just because when you love and care about somebody, you are super happy when they are happy, or when they get some good news, and you're really sad for them when they get bad news. And so I'm lucky enough to have an amazing support system and people who really love me. And so I think it has affected them because they've seen the toll it's taken. They've seen the heartbreak. They've been there when we've had a miscarriage. And so it's hurt them too. But I don't think, you know, they don't know, they're not there in the day to day. So they don't know like the moments of grief that just hit me at any given moment. But I do think it's affected them in some way. And especially my parents and my husband's parents, because they don't have grandkids and all their friends have grandkids. So, you know, it's affected them in that way too.
So do you belong to any organizations or support groups, and if any, have those, what has been the most helpful of those?
Yes. Okay, so I can answer this one so easily. Sarah's Laughter is a organization in Baton Rouge. It is an amazing organization. It started out as just a small support group in Beth's house. Beth is the founder of it. And I started going in 2013. So when I started going, I'd already been trying to conceive for 2 years. And it was like, I mean, the best thing that happened to me in these whole 8 years. Like, the best decision I ever made was walking through those doors. And so it started as just a little support group in her house, but now we have like our own building, and it's not just the one Baton Rouge support group. There's support groups in New Orleans, Shreveport, Lafayette. Now there's some in Texas, Tennessee. Like they're spreading out all over the United States, and there's one in Australia and one some other country, I think. And, you know, it's not just the support group, which is awesome, but they also do a fun run called Baby Steps, where they help, you know, raise money for Sarah's Laughter, and also people that are going through infertility can have their own team and can like try to win an IVF. They have a drawing for IVF and a drawing for a family grant that can be used for IVF or adoption. So it's pretty awesome. And they have a podcast too, which is great.
So what do you feel is the greatest misconception out there about infertility?
Okay, I had to think about this one. I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions, but I think the greatest misconception is probably that you can make it go away, that it's easily fixable. Because anytime you say, I mean, I've been going through this so long now that most people who know me know about it and don't just ask nosy questions, but strangers making small talk, finding out I've been married 10 years, they will say, oh, well, just adopt, or oh, just relax, or oh, just go on vacation. And it's not, that's not how it works. And so I I've heard those things a million times, and I think people just have this idea that it's not really a medical condition, that it's just like these people don't know how to make a baby, honestly, or these people don't know what they're doing, or this girl is too stressed out, she's obsessing, and she can't get pregnant, and that has nothing to do with it. I'm actually a very chill person. I don't really stress easily. I'm not trying to control like when I can have a kid, but it's natural to want to have a kid after you get married, and it's a natural part of life in your 20s or 30s to want to have a kid. And so I guess to me that's the biggest misconception, and those kind of comments are not helpful. They just make you feel like they just say it flippantly, like it's not that big of a deal, and it is a really big deal. So I think the biggest misconception is that it's not a medical condition.
So what do you think has been the greatest or most important lesson while going through this journey? I don't know that I'm supposed to learn some big lesson, but I feel like I've changed as a person going through this, and I think it's because it's mainly in the area of compassion. And that's not to say I used to not be a compassionate person, and now I am. But I was very tenderhearted as a kid, and I think as you get older, you get more cynical. And this situation has made me very compassionate towards like anything anybody's going through. It doesn't have to be infertility, but like if you're going through a divorce, or somebody died that you're close to, or anything hard, I have a lot of compassion for it, and I will reach out to that person. I don't just think about them and not tell them. I'll send them a card, or I'll let them know they're not alone. And so that's probably the biggest thing. And then, kind of playing off the question before last, what is one thing you wish people would know about infertility?
Very simply speaking, just that it's hard. Like, it's completely the most devastating thing I've ever walked through. And I have friends who've been through infertility, and they've also been through cancer, or they've been through infertility and they've also lost loved ones, and they also say it's the hardest thing they've ever been through. I don't know, it's grief. It's the same kind of grief you experience when you lose a loved one. Like, you go through all the like moments of grief or whatever, like all the steps of grief, except it doesn't ever end. Like, it doesn't get better until, some people have a baby and they say it still doesn't go away, because you still have those feelings. They don't just go away when you get pregnant, or they don't just go away when you adopt. But yeah, I think I wish people knew that it's hard to go to baby showers. It's hard to sit in a room full of women where they're all talking about their kids. Like, all those things are hard.
So, are there things that people say that you wish they would stop saying about infertility?
Yes. The main things are some of the things I've already mentioned, but just adopt, just relax, just go on vacation, or about like miscarriages are often linked to infertility. So like, at least you weren't far along, or at least you don't have bratty kids to deal with every night, or at least you can get some sleep, or at least you can travel whenever you want, which I always thought was dumb because we don't have money to just travel whenever we want. Those are the big ones. The other two, I would say, I think that people should stop asking couples when they're going to have kids, because when you get married, when I first got married, I was asked it all the time, but I didn't know about infertility yet, so it annoyed me, because it's like, we just got married, give us a minute, let us enjoy our happiness of being a couple. But then when infertility entered the picture, it wasn't just annoying, it was heartbreaking, like, especially with someone I didn't want to be open with. So it's like, I don't want to tell you, but I'm not just not having kids because I'm selfish. Like, I really want them. Not that not having kids is selfish, but you know what I'm saying. So I think people should stop asking people when they're going to have kids. And the worst thing that I've ever heard that anybody can say to anybody is, maybe you're just not meant to have kids. Maybe it's meant to be. Maybe it's not in God's plan. Maybe God doesn't want you to have a baby. That is the worst thing. It's only been said to me once, and it made me cry, but it's been said to a lot of people a lot of times.
And my thought on that is a little sassy, but it's kind of like, number one, yes, I am meant to be a mom. I've always known that. And it's not it's not for you to say if I'm not meant to be a mom. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't like when people say that. And another thing I have to say to that is, if you're saying I'm not meant to be a mom just because I don't have kids, then you're saying a drug addict or someone who throws their kid in a garbage can is meant to have kids just because they have a kid. That's not how that works. So, yeah.
So, infertility is often seen as a female issue.
Yeah.
What do you think men could do to bring awareness, or do you think that men would want or have the same type of support resources for male infertility?
Sarah's Laughter does have a men's support group. My husband doesn't go to it. Some men do. So I think all men are kind of different. I do think that women and men suffer from infertility differently. So I have friends whose husbands are like, you know, they grieve too, and they go to a support group. My husband probably grieves in his own way, but he's kind of like, we have a great marriage, we have a great life. Like, how, if it's just the two of us, how, that's not the worst thing in the world. But he also has really grown in like being a good support to me, and like being understanding that women are different. Like, we're born to have kids, you know, like, I mean, not all women want to do that, but for women who do want to do that, they need the support of their husband. And so I think that men can be a support to their wife if they're going through it, but they also can support like their friends who are going through it, like both the husband and the wife, and or any family members, just by being encouraging, not saying flippant, crude things. Like, some guys do say crude things about, well, what's the problem, you know, like insinuating issues, and they could just be saying more supportive things, or even just sharing a Facebook post about advocating for people going through it. So.
So, if you feel comfortable sharing, have you explored adoption? And if so, why or why not have you chosen to pursue it?
The first thing I want to say about that is I love adoption. I love adoption. I think it is beautiful and wonderful, and I have a lot of friends who have chosen that path. You know, Sarah's Laughter Support Group, I've made lifelong friends. So I have a lot of friends who've gone the IVF way or the IUI way, and some who've gone the adoption way. And the ones who've gone the adoption way can tell you that financially I support them, and when they bring that baby home, I'm like crying tears of joy with them. And if they have a failed adoption where the birth mom changed her mind, I'm sad with them. But we have never felt like that's for us, and I don't know why. We just never have. So all our friends who have done it, they eventually felt that like pull to pursue adoption, and we just never have. But that's not to say we're not open to it. So, like, you know, when you kind of are told this is going to be a difficult journey trying to have kids, some people immediately go to adoption, and some people just start fertility treatments, and then at some point they're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to do adoption. And we just never felt that way. Like, we just have always just done the next step with fertility treatments. But if our last one fails, I'm open to it. My husband would have to be on the same, we would have to be on the same page, and he may not. So, you know, that's kind of where we are with that right now.
And then one last question. For people out there traveling the same journey, what kind of advice would you give them?
For people going through this journey, my biggest thing I would say is to get in a support group, because walking through infertility, you're surrounded by motherhood, which is a good thing, it's normal, but you feel very alone and isolated. And a lot of women, I'm pretty open about it, but I used to not be. I'm open about it because we're 8 years into our journey, so I've been open about it since about year 3 or 4. But the first 2 or 3 years, I was extremely private about it. I didn't want anybody to know. Like, I was embarrassed. And a lot of people are like that, and so they're really isolated because not even their friends or their family know, only their husband. And so I think it's very important to get in a support group, and I try to convince people of that when they are going through it, like, you need to do this, just so they know they're not alone. And the other thing I would say to people going through it is, I mean, I don't even know how to say it except don't obsess. Like, you can't control if it's going to work, if your procedure is going to work, if your adoption is going to go through. Like, you can't control it. You kind of just have to release it and just pray and just hope for the best and just not obsess over every, like, there's some girls that just obsess over every little tiny thing, their diet, and like, I shouldn't have these chemicals and I shouldn't, you know, like all this stuff. And I just don't think any of that's helpful. I think it just stresses you out more.
Thank you very, very much.
You're
This has been
welcome.
wonderful.
Yay!